Hello and welcome to the X-Files Revisited, where week by week we look at each and every episode in the series. Today we'll be checking out E.B.E, which means Extraterrestrial Biological Entity. So yes, today's episode is all about the Loch Ness Monster. E.B.E debuted on February 18th, 1994, and is episode 17 of Season 1. It follows Agents Mulder and Scully as they become embroiled in a campaign of disinformation when they attempt to expose the transportation of a supposed alien life form. The episode begins over the skies of Iraq as a fighter pilot appears to be tracking some kind of unidentified object. Not appearing on his radar, he contacts his base, but they aren't picking up anything either. Suddenly, there's a bright flash as the pilot comes under attack. The unidentified craft crash lands just outside a NATO surveillance station on the Turkey-Iraq border. Some soldiers notify their superiors of the crash and head out to investigate, but they aren't alone.
Medivac 1, this is Red Vector 1. Building prison reports downed aircraft in their area. Over.
A truck driver heads down Route 100 in Reagan, Tennessee around 12:20 a.m. Central Time. He doesn't travel light though, as he appears to be carrying S-Mart's top of the line.
Shop smart. Shop S-Mart.
He starts having issues with the FM radio, so he turns up his CB, and it looks like other trucks have been seeing some strange objects in the sky.
It was cigar-shaped, red and green lights, fast as hell.
I've seen 3 of them flying over Chester County.
Police then go barreling by, and it looks kind of bright outside for being 12 a.m. Then all of a sudden, his truck loses all power. Coming to a dead stop, the trucker gets out to investigate the issue, but not without his boomstick.
This is my boomstick!
The back of his truck opens all by itself, and he starts to fire his gun, and I understand. I also hate cardboard boxes.
Damn you! A box!
Then we see some kind of craft hovering above, but it kinda looks like the sole of a running shoe to me. The following morning and our agents are on the scene. Now we all know what Mulder thinks occurred, but what about Scully?
And you know there's a marsh over there. Those lights the driver saw may have been swamp gas.
Swamp gas?
Mulder tells Scully that of every potential UFO incident he has ever investigated, none have had this much evidence. But why was this truck driver singled out? Scully believes that due to non-stop driving and lack of sleep, the man may have been seeing things that weren't actually there. However, Mulder points out something rather interesting.
I started these stopwatches at the same time.
That's all the proof I need.
We're at the Lexington, Tennessee police station where the driver is being held for shooting at boxes, I guess. The driver describes what he saw as being saucer-shaped and having green and orange lights, but Mulder points out he said it was cigar-shaped last night and black. So already his credibility is shot. Then he starts having a coughing fit, and luckily for him, Scully just so happens to be a medical doctor and knows water to be a cure-all. But it hasn't been properly filtered, so he's not interested.
Now what's wrong with this one?
It has dust in it.
This one?
A hair.
Scully thinks he's experiencing Gulf War syndrome, but the man informs her that he was never in the Gulf War.
So, how long have you not been yourself?
There's a lot of people not knowing who they are so far in the X-Files. Some police come in the room and tell the trucker he can leave and that everything has been squared away. Mulder, however, wants to check out the truck, but for whatever reason, no matter where he is, the police always treat him like crap.
You've gotten all you're going to get out of this county. We will no longer cooperate in your investigation.
Why?
Just go away.
The agents are at the car rental and Mulder knows someone got to the chief. A random woman asks Scully if she can use her pen, and as minute a detail that is, it is important. Scully believes the only UFOs that soldiers are bound to see are secret military aircraft. But I mean, that's still a UFO. Is it unidentified? Is it flying? And is it an object? If it matches those 3 criteria, then it is indeed a UFO. Mulder tells Scully when he gets back he's going to talk to some guys that may have some answers.
These guys are like an extreme government watchdog group.
Check it out, Mulder. I had breakfast with the guy who shot John F. Kennedy.
Is that so?
Old dude now, but yeah.
And oh boy, how I have been waiting for these 3. Scully seems to be enjoying herself with these dorks, and Frohickey and myself definitely share the same sentiment in regards of Agent Scully.
Is this your skeptical partner?
She's hot. She is hot.
Settle down, Frohickey.
We're not.
These three are lunatics, and to prove to Scully the government is up to shenanigans, Byers pulls a magnetic strip from inside her $20 bill to prove they're tracking everyone. Mulder asks the lone gunman about Gulf War syndrome, and even these three think he's nuts.
What about UFO activity during that period?
Yeah. UFOs caused the Gulf War syndrome. That's a good one.
That's why we like you, Mulder. Your ideas are weirder than ours.
Scully definitely appears to be big fans of theirs, though.
Those were the most paranoid people I have ever met. I don't know how you could think that what they say is even remotely plausible.
I think it's remotely plausible that someone might think you're hot.
She's openly mocking them when, for some reason, she unscrews her pen, revealing it to be covered in a mishmash of resistors, diodes, and capacitors. But no transistors, which would be needed if you wanted to form a transmitter. But it looks just spooky enough that it works for the moment. That night, Mulder shines a blue light out his window to contact Deep Throat like he's Batman or something. How exactly he would see a small blue light from wherever he is beyond me. He gets a phone call, but it's just some prank caller who hangs up.
Hello?
Hello, Dean. You're a stupid head.
Homer, is that you?
This prompts Mulder, however, to meet up with Deep Throat at a nice romantic spot out by the water. Some tourists start taking photos, and Deep Throat, acting like a cheating spouse, doesn't want to get caught out with Mulder. Mulder asks him what it is that he's onto exactly, and Deep Throat simply hands him an envelope. Mulder goes over the contents, top secret documents transcribing the events with the Iraqi pilot. Scully then comes in with evidence that the truck driver wasn't exactly who he said he was. His truck somehow went from carrying auto parts weighing 3,100 pounds to suddenly weighing 5,100 pounds, like it stopped for an all-you-can-eat seafood buffet.
It's hideous.
I heard they shaved a gorilla.
The truck driver even lied about his name and was apparently special ops in Iraq. Mulder believes the truck was carrying the wreckage and/or pilots from the craft down by the Iraqi fighter pilot. Scully questions Mulder on where he's obtaining his information and believes he's being misdirected. Mulder tells her he's never been led down the wrong path before and to trust him. The truck is heading west towards Colorado, so the agents are going to drive that way to try and cut it off. But Scully looks like she would rather be doing anything else. Mulder arrives back at his place, but like a surprise party gone wrong, Deep Throat is inside, having cut the main breaker.
You risk exposure coming here.
What I have here is too important.
Deep Throat hands him another envelope, and inside are photos so fake it looks like something I made in Photoshop. Mulder is fanboying over the photos like kids these days do over, well, whoever the hell is popular these days, I have no idea. Scully, however, takes him down from his high, pointing out the photo to be a fake. Mulder, however, won't take anything other than this being 100% real.
Mulder, the truth is out there. But so are lies.
The following morning, Scully comes in the office leaving her bag on the desk because without her morning cup of coffee, she's a little feisty.
Sure, fine. Whatever.
She comes back and her bag has suddenly been knocked over. Mulder gives her a mini heart attack and then tells her he had the photo analyzed and it does appear to be fraudulent. He now comes to the conclusion that Deep Throat deceived him and they really have no one to trust but each other. Sometime later, he meets with Deep Throat again, taking in the sights and sounds of the local Washington, D.C. National Aquarium. Well, it appears to be trouble in paradise as their relationship is on the rocks.
I thought you were my ally.
Oh, I am.
Yeah, imagine if Eisenhower told the rest of the Allies that D-Day would take place in Belgium.
However, like every abusive relationship, Deep Throat tries working with the compliments to smooth things out.
You and Scully are excellent investigators, and your motives are just.
Mulder, clearly fed up with the whole thing, is about to leave when Deep Throat decides to drop this little nugget.
If a shark stops swimming, it will die. Don't stop swimming.
This isn't entirely true, however. Sharks like great whites, whale sharks, and hammerheads must keep moving, but nurse, carpet, and serrated snouted saw sharks are able to breathe without moving. Before Deep Throat leaves, he does tell Mulder one last thing. He didn't plant the device on the agents, but they're still being spied on. So Mulder, being the rational person he is, decides to tear his apartment apart looking for any kind of bug. Making his whole place flip turned upside down, he unscrews the faceplate off a wall socket and notices something unusual. Scully arrives, but Mulder, motioning to her to shut up, shows her just what he found. He then writes her a note saying they need to find the truck.
I think this time you're right, Mulder.
The agents find a nice place to park on the street, and their car has the exact same license plate as the one behind them. Mulder drops Scully off, and they're now both being followed by some unsavory characters, both in car and on foot. The man on foot following Scully tries to make it look not so obvious, but Scully is a medical doctor and sees right through his charade. So she hails down a taxi and takes off. Arriving at the Dulles airport, and if not for YouTube, I wouldn't have known how to say that properly, although why does every pronunciation video have a 30-second intro when all I want to know is how to say a goddamn word properly? Where Scully then proceeds to purchase multiple tickets to Chicago and Los Angeles from Morticia Addams. Am I the only one that remembers the new Addams family?
It's the Addams family!
Mulder, meanwhile, is still being followed by the man in the car. Stopping at a red light, he channels his inner Vin Diesel and is able to evade the man once the light turns green.
There's always room for family.
Meeting up with Scully, they discreetly discuss where the truck may be headed, and Scully tells them it's headed on the I-90, so they need to fly to Seattle. Cut to, and they're suddenly on the I-90, and lo and behold, they just found their truck. And just as Mulder and Scully pull out, we get a lovely shot of the crew filming the scene. It's night and they're still following the truck, but of course Mulder, the misogynist, makes Scully drive so he can catch up on some sleep like a typical man. The radio then goes haywire and Scully has to jam on the brakes as there's a sudden bright flash. The truck is stopped ahead of them, but has now somehow been completely turned around.
Ranheim! Ranheim!
Unable to find the driver, the agents move to the back of the truck and just start tossing the boxes to see what's in there. After destroying priceless merchandise, the agents discover some kind of a holding room, and immediately Mulder thinks it was holding an alien life form. And for once, Scully doesn't seem so skeptical.
It was an extraterrestrial biological entity. Alive.
Where did it go?
But I guess it was all a hoax because Mulder's stopwatches both work? Mulder believes they set all this up and use some newfangled technology that no one knows about. He now seems to be taking what Scully has been saying to heart. At a swanky motel, Mulder makes some calls to some friends in MUFON and other similar organizations and discovers more UFO sightings were reported in the vicinity of Mattawa, roughly 100 miles from where the truck stopped. So they're going to go check it out. They drive around Mattawa where they find a bunch of UFO nuts having a party out in the woods.
What's going on here?
A UFO party.
You've seen UFOs?
Last 2 nights. They're drawn through electric power. They hover over the power plant down there.
Well, of course, Mulder has to check out the power plant. And well, if it isn't their buddy, the truck driver. The power plant appears to be under extremely high security, but Mulder knows just the guys for the job.
This place has got to have the highest level of security.
Just the kind of challenge they're looking for.
Who?
Lone gunman.
Mulder tells Langley he can have the first published photo of an extraterrestrial biological entity on his paper, and all he needs to do is hack some ID numbers. And well, he does just that. Interestingly enough, however, is one of the names used is Tom Braidwood, which is the actor's name that plays Frohickey. Their little trick pays off as Mulder and Scully are both allowed access in the plant. Inside, Mulder tells Scully Langley wasn't able to get access to level 6, but it appears to be guarded anyways. They reach a dead end and have to turn back, which is definitely going to set off some alarm bells. They turn around and are confronted by the guard, who's a little on edge. Scully tells the man they're FBI, and just as they turn a corner, Mulder bolts it for the door, which I didn't think they had access to.
It's up the stairs! Go, go, go!
Mulder races down the steps where he's nearly taken out by their strongest security guard, a high voltage sign. A now limping Mulder races towards what looks like a giant microwave when a familiar voice stops the security before things can go any further.
Let him go. Let him go.
Deep Throat tells Mulder he knows he wants to look inside, but it's dead. Now, what's dead exactly? An alien? And even if it's a dead alien, it's still an alien. I think seeing even a dead alien would be kind of a big deal. And then Deep Throat pronounces extraterrestrial like I do 90% of the words I speak when reading for these videos.
that should any extraterrestrial...
Deep Throat rambles on about how he shot one of these beings and is using Mulder to hopefully expose it all one day and atone for his sins, I guess. Mulder, however, wants to see that damn alien, but it's already gone. They leave the building, but Mulder doesn't know what to believe anymore. Scully is escorted out, where she and Mulder watch as Deep Throat just disappears into the fog. And that's E.B.E, a good episode bringing us back to the mythology storyline. This might be heresy to say, but I'm actually more of a fan of the Monster of the Week one-off episodes than I am of the mythology-driven stuff. That could be a big reason why I don't watch modern television, as serialized stuff seems to be all they make these days. It's nice to see Scully not completely dismiss things for once, and Mulder even taking her advice and listening to what she has to say. When you think about it, if it wasn't for her, he would keep chasing false leads and maybe not consider the fact that someone could be messing with him. My favorite part of this episode really comes down to the introduction of the lone gunmen. These three are going to add so much fun to the show, and finally, we have some new characters that aren't immediately killed off. E.B.E currently has an 8.4 rating, which is very high. This one is definitely popular. Like mentioned earlier, this episode marked the debut of the lone gunmen. They were actually only supposed to be a one-off, but because of positive fan reception, they were brought back in subsequent seasons and episodes. The casting of Tom Braidwood, who was an assistant director on the show as Frohickey, was almost incidental. They didn't think they were coming back and didn't know who to cast in the role until someone said, "We need someone repulsive and with the appearance of Braidwood," so they just gave him the part. This episode was the first time writers Glenn Morgan and James Wong were both able to write an episode within the mythology story arc, which they were both really wanting to do. A lot of their ideas for the show actually came from fan mail telling writers what they wanted to see in the show. Morgan stated, "I think E.B.E was written for people who we felt were hardcore X-Files fans, people into UFOs and every conspiracy imaginable. The first scene the duo wrote was the one in which Deep Throat claims to have killed an extraterrestrial. The reason this scene came to be was because fans kept asking for more information on Deep Throat." Glenn Morgan stated, "We said, why don't we finally give him a little backstory, I said. I think it would be really cool if he admitted he had killed an alien. And then we said, well, he says he killed an alien. This guy. You never know whether he's lying or not, so let's leave it ambiguous. And everyone on the computer will go, is he lying or not?" E.B.E is a good episode diving more into the mythology arc and showing us more of the dynamic between Mulder and Scully that will carry on throughout the rest of the series. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit like, let me know down in the comments what you thought of today's episode, and subscribe if you'd like more. Check back soon, as next up we'll be looking at the episode Miracle Man. Thank you all for watching, and stay spooky.
Something from another world has landed.
The military shot down an unidentified flying object.
And the government will do anything.
What am I onto? A dangerous pair.
To keep Mulder and Scully from finding it alive.
Mulder!
An all-new episode of The X-Files, Friday at 9, 8 Central.